The road trip caps off on a thriller in Miami as the Jazz battle the experienced veteran guile of the Miami Heat down to the final moments and show where they need growth, which is really what this is all about. And the Jazz fall in Miami. We're talking about it next on POSTCAST. David Locke along with Ron Boone as the Utah Jazz fall to the Miami Heat 119-115 in a great game. The game had 5 lead changes in the first 3 quarters and had 13 in the fourth quarter. That is a super fun basketball game. Jazz finished the road trip at 2-4. This would have been a monster win for the Jazz in the playoff hunt. This would have been a disastrous loss for the Heat in their quest to try to settle themselves on a disappointing season. And I think this was a really interesting game, Ron, because you have Lauir Markkanen learning how to be a number 1 guy. You have Ochai Agbaji playing late game minutes. You had Simone Fontecchio closing tonight for the first time. And you had little things about all of them where they'll be better the next time. I'm going to start with Lauir, if I may. One of the great things about being on a road trip is you have conversations. And I think it might have been in a press conference, but I'm not entirely sure, where Will Hardy talked about the next step for Lauir Markkanen is that he starts and gains momentum on his own. That just about everything the Jazz run for Lauir has been on curls, and he's catching the ball with an advantage. And on one of the key plays late, Lauir, they blow up. Teams can top block, and they can blow up the whole thing. And Lauir catches on the left side, and he's got to create his own momentum. At 7 feet, that's hard. You don't see Kevin Durant doing it a lot. He kind of pulls into a jumper. You see that with little guards, and Lauir just didn't get a great look out of that. Like that's the whole point here. That's why it's so great that this team is playing important, tight basketball games right now. So that on a night where Lauir was unbelievable, 38, he still has pieces that if he's going to be that guy and that next level, kind of you and I had a debate on this road trip of whether he's a star or a superstar. Like, I think that's, for him to be a superstar, that's the play he's got to have.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, David, and you can see his improvement throughout the year. You can see he's getting better and better at everything that he's trying to do out there on the floor. So, and that next step for him to being able to create, and I think that's what you're looking for, is something that he's going to have to learn to do off the dribble a little bit more. I mean, he can be the Embiid and get to a certain spot on the floor and go step a couple of dribbles left, a couple of dribbles right, whatever, and shoot over the top of the guys. But what you're talking about is being able to create a little bit more than what we're seeing.
And he has 2 monster plays late, one on the right side where it's fadeaway jumper, and then the other time he comes left hand in the middle. He can't score on all of them. But, he had these plays where he had to create it himself tonight against a really good defensive team. I thought that was really interesting. The other thing I think was really interesting about Lauir tonight was he couldn't make anything the other night. He was unfazed by it.
Come back, and now he gets 26 shots tonight and gets to the free throw line. Gets 12 3-point shots up tonight after a ball game that he had in Orlando. But, again, the development of him, and all of a sudden he's a star in this league. He's been defended differently, and he's responding and doing a very good job of responding to whatever defense they're throwing at him.
The other aspect of this one is a lot of people kind of ask us, we had 20 games left, like, well, what's important? I get asked that all the time on the shows.
Yeah.
Well, what's important is giving guys the opportunity to play every night. And Simone Fontecchio might be the best example of that. He was really not very good. And if the Jazz weren't playing right now, and the way we characterize on this road trip, they're playing players and running plays and doing things all predicated on how they're going to be better in the future while trying to win today. So in other words, the most important thing is let's get these guys opportunities, let them play, let's see what they can do. Let's run Lauir as a point guard off a double stagger. Let's let Ochai have the ball in his hands. Let's run things to him. Let's do these things. Let's put Walker on Markelle Fultz and have him guard. They had Walker guarding everybody tonight. Let's do those things so these guys learn, but we're going to do it and we're going to try to win. But we're going to do those things predominantly. And I think we saw that tonight, and we saw this whole road trip. It's why it's so great, Ron.
Everything is developed now from this point on. Well, probably started a little earlier than what we're talking about now. But they'll do something out there on the floor. Not necessarily do something out there on the floor in particular. But this ball game will be viewed with the shooting coaches of the players and they'll go over everything on the floor and correct certain situations out there on the floor just to keep fresh in mind of a player, just in case it happens again. This is what we'd like to see, and this is what we expect out of you. That the film session that they have individual with coaches is so important.
It really is. So the Jazz tonight fell behind early, battled back as they always do, outscored the Heat by 8 in the second, and then we were tied going to the fourth, and then we had that just kind of incredible fourth quarter. 2 plays late that the Jazz will want. One is Simone Fontecchio comes up to set a pick and pushes in the back. They originally called the foul on the Heat player Spoelstra with a great challenge, a game-winning challenge, actually. At first, I couldn't figure out why he was challenging. Then I saw, they're going to get it They get it twisted. So Fontecchio commits that offensive foul. And then on the final one, Abaji drives. Love the aggressiveness, but he has Walker Kessler wide open for a handoff.
He probably could have handed it right to him, just put it right in his stomach and tried a low percentage shot.
What do you think these guys learned from? What do you think both those guys learned from that?
Well, you're trying to create and you're trying to make things better for not only yourself but your teammates as well. It's not necessarily you don't need to take the high road or make the low percentage shot or those type of things. It's just you learn from. I don't know, David. I mean, there's you're just going to feel like I don't want to make that mistake again. That type of thing. You could see it on Abaji's face. I mean, when the camera was watching our feed here and the camera on his face, he was like, he had a stone face, to the point where I just messed up.
Ron, they did some really interesting things defensively tonight. One of which was the ball would go into the post or they would double, but then the guy they doubled would stay and the other guy would leave, which was super interesting. How do you think they executed that?
Well, I thought we didn't see a lot of it until late in the ballgame in the second half. We didn't see a lot of that in the first half. It's like the Heat didn't really go to that, the things that the Jazz worked on defensively this morning, but they did do it, late in the half. And I thought they did. I thought they did pretty good, especially one possession when the Heat had the ball was just popping all the way around the floor, swing it, and the Jazz was right on point to defend it.
I was surprised how we didn't see any zone. Almost no zone from Miami tonight. Maybe 5 possessions at the most.
Yeah, not very much. Coaches are pretty smart.
Well, this one's really smart.
And they're expecting a zone. We might not give it to them tonight,
right.
Or we'll give it to them and get right out of it, or something like that. We don't have to be in a zone with the kind of players they have out there on the floor because they're for instance, in that third period, the Jazz had Yu Zhang, they had Anderson. I mean, they just had guys out there on the floor that maybe the zone would have bothered them a little bit more, but who knows? They didn't go to it.
Worth noting, Rudy Gay took a horrific beating from everyone in the first half of the season. Since the trade, he really has kind of a role now, right? He's got to score in that second unit. He's on the floor with guys that just don't score. He's making plays for this team. He's really done a lot of nice things, and it's been important for this team here recently.
Watch him in practice. Watch how he's keeping. I mean, one time out there on the floor, he had to direct Yu Zhang out there on the floor where to go. I mean, that type of thing. Because, when things change and all of a sudden you're getting something different, your role's got to change there too. And I think he's done a good job of directing, some of the young guys or some of the guys that haven't been on this team. But you watch him in practice, and he's there. I mean, he knows what's going on. He's been there. He's done that. And he doesn't use a lot of energy, put it that way.
Yeah, he does. He's a pretty calm dude. By the way, some people are talking about plus-minus. I'm not a big believer in game-to-game plus-minus. And I actually would tell you, for example, on one of Damian Jones, as someone's talking about, I actually think if bench players have a good plus-minus, that's a tribute to the head coach for putting them in the game where they can be successful and taking them out of the game when they can't be successful.
Did you see the second quarter?
Yeah, that's where everyone's plus-minus was created. And then Damian Jones was not very good in the third quarter, and Will Hardy took him out of the game and played Lowry as a center. So then Damian Jones's plus-minus stayed positive. That's really what I was trying to say. Okay. All right, thanks, Ron. So I was being more polite about that, but Ron just put me, all right, so right under the bus.
Well, everyone had a good plus-minus in that quarter. Yeah.
All right. I think this one's easy, right?
Oh, yes, without a doubt.
Actually, just touch on Simone. What are you seeing out of him? He went from literally like it felt like he was the worst player in the NBA to now he seems like a viable NBA player.
But I tell you what, David, his confidence has never left.
Yep.
I mean, he's been brutal shooting the basketball. I mean, to the point where that, dang, do I want to shoot this basketball again? He's kept firing, and he had one of those nights tonight, and probably a high in minutes, almost 30 minutes tonight, and 17 shots in 29 minutes. 5 for 11 from the three-point line at 23 points, a new season high. So that was an excellent night for him, and that's a confidence booster, believe me.
It's got to be. And Lowry's our other star.
Absolutely.
Those two tonight.
Very
Jazz
easy.
wrap up the road trip. We'll play Boston on Saturday. Thanks so much for tuning in to POSTCAST and Locked On Jazz.